Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Vendor Spotlight. This is the first one that we have since having the online summit last week. And today, one of my guests was an expert panelist on the summit, and her name is Pat Bellamy with Bellamy Healing Arts. Now, Pat is a shamanic healer and practitioner of energy medicine and energy psychology, and she's located in Kelowna, BC, in beautiful Canada. She has been providing transformational healing, drum circles, and medicine wheel ceremony and teachings to women for many years. So we will be talking with her today, and she's going to share with us some of her journey along the shamanic path, and just what does that mean, and what does that entail, and what does that look like when you go see her for a session? These are the questions that I have that I'll be asking her, and looking forward to her sharing her story with us as well. So if you're here and watching live and you'd like to make some comments, please go ahead and use the link that I've posted below in the comments as well to grant StreamYard permission to use your name and your photo that's associated with Facebook. Because even though this is a live, I am using a streaming platform, so we get all these extra bonuses like these tickers at the bottom and the names on the screens and all of that makes your viewing that much more enjoyable. So if you could go ahead and grant that permission to StreamYard, that would be awesome. And so without further ado, I will bring Pat onto the screen with me. Hello, Pat. How are you doing today?
Hi, Carly. I'm doing really good. How are you doing?
Pretty good, thank you. I've been pretty busy after that summit, trying to kind of follow up with all the videos and everything, and getting into the vendor spotlights again. So
yeah, you're a dedicated girl.
Well, I've got to go online because we're not meeting in person.
That's right.
I am aiming for a September reunion, I guess we'll call that.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
But until then, we will just be meeting everybody online and sharing our stories and backgrounds, and certainly trying to bring some pieces of the holistic market and psychic fair to everybody in the online world.
Right.
Yeah. So actually, before we get started, because I did post this in the comments as well, that you actually have a free gift for all of our viewers today, and it's 4 steps to calm your spirit.
Right.
And this is very easily obtained, and I put the link in the comments, and all people have to do is just put in their first name and email, and there it is, going right to their inbox. So free gift from Pat to start off this vendor spotlight today, and it's on 4 steps to calm your spirit, which I'm sure we can all use some of that these days.
That's
so we'll
talk
sure. about that a little bit more as well too, and we'll pop that up again later. So welcome everybody to the show, and if you're watching on the replays, certainly type in replay. If you're watching live, type in hello. Let us know where you're watching from. We have, since doing the online summit, we've had quite a few viewers joining us from across the country, and actually across the world too. So I'm always curious to know where people are watching from. If you have the ability to go and type that in while you're watching here, please do so. Let us know, say hello, and you're certainly welcome. And then check out in those comments too for that free gift link, which you can come back to and do later. Don't do it yet because you're watching us live. So Pat, when we were chatting before, you had mentioned that your shamanic journey has actually started like in the 70s.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that, and like what that was like and how you got started?
Okay. Well, in the 70s, I took up transcendental meditation in, I think, 1974. And I, was living with, in the time when a lot of information wasn't available. We didn't have internet and stuff like that in the 70s. So at least I didn't anyway. and so anyway, I was living up north, and I had taken up transcendental meditation. And soon after I was doing this, twice a day was the platform that they used, I would go into this really deep trance right away, and I would go into this place where I was totally separated from my body, where, to be honest, I didn't know where I was going, but it was just dark and very peaceful, and I didn't have anybody to phone up and say, is this what I'm supposed to experience, or anything like that. And but anyway, I went along with that in a very deep trance state. And one time when I was in meditation, this white skeleton appeared over my head, and I could see it up there, and I thought, okay. So anyway, this thing came down, and I had a sense that it was a male. Came down through my crown, filled my field, and merged with my body. And it felt totally okay, surprisingly enough. And I didn't exactly know what that meant. And so I started doing some research, and what I found was I had experienced what is called the shamanic approach.
And this was during your transcendental
Yeah.
meditation. So that was that something you just kind of did on your own, or were you in a group, or was it like
I was on my own. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
On my own. Yeah.
Okay.
I was a lone wolf in probably pretty well everything that I've done. I don't have a teacher in this world. Even the transcendental meditation guy, he was from Ontario. I was working up north in Alberta, and he just came for the weekend, gave the course, and left again. So there was nobody to talk to about that.
Oh, so that's how you got introduced to it, and then from there you're journeying on your own and exploring.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
And no internet to look stuff up.
No internet to look stuff up. Yeah, so that's exactly right. So I did, when I started doing the research into what this onset was, like what this was the consciousness that I'd received. I got some stuff typed out here. So it was called the shamanic approach, and shamanism is said to be one of man's oldest, first spiritual practices. It's a practice worldwide. It's on every continent. Shamanism is not subject to a specific doctrine or race or religion. The word shaman is taken from the Tungus tribe of Siberia and translates roughly to one who sees in the dark. And I learned that shamanism does not have a book of rules or a set of instructions as to what you might encounter while you were in the shamanic trance state. So these were the first things that I learned from that experience. And okay, so then I wonder, well, what am I going to be doing with this? So one part of my research, it explained to me that to become a shaman, which was the word that I was receiving, you might be accepted to take up an apprenticeship by the tribal shaman, and you would have to cook their meals, haul their wood and stuff like that for a while before they would even entertain teaching you anything, because it was very proprietary, and from what I've read, there was a fair amount of ego that went along with, that type of thing. And so, but eventually they would start to teach you, and you would have to do it exactly the way it did because of that lineage and all that you were following. So that was the one way of becoming somebody who would do this kind of work. And the second way I learned was that you would be approached by a shaman on the other side, so a shaman that had already passed on. And then you would, if accepted, then you would be taught by them. And that's what I had experienced, was this shamanic approach. So I was going to be learning from this ancient dead shaman, the same way that many other people have for centuries.
Right.
So I was very excited about that, and so I went with that.
So was that that connection by going into the transcendental meditation each time is that how you were receiving the info and gaining this knowledge, or?
No, well, essentially, that's a good question, because the state of mind or the state of consciousness that I go to when I am in the transcendental meditation is it's a place beyond time and space. So I'm trying to find the right words that would, because I just found some words recently that explain to me exactly where I was going when I would experience this. So let me just see if I can find them.
Yeah, sure. I'll just give you a sec to go find that, and I'll just
Okay.
welcome everybody else here who is watching. And if you're joining right now, we're talking with Pat Bellamy of Bellamy Healing Arts. She's located in Kelowna, and she's talking to us about shamanism and her shamanic experience and how she has discovered it and her journeys and what that looks like. So if you're just joining us now, type in the comments below where you're watching from. We've got someone watching here from Chase, BC. Hello.
Wow.
And Nikki's here. Thank you. She says, thank you, Pat. So remember to to follow that link to grant StreamYard permission to use your photo and name. Otherwise, it turns up like this for us because we are using a streaming platform here today. And so let us see who you are, and just do that by granting StreamYard the permission to post that. Oh, and we've got Nikki. She's in Kamloops today, but she's from Kelowna. Hey, Nikki, thanks for joining us. Okay, so I'm just going to bring Pat back in here again, and hello again.
Hello again. You know what I have on my screen? If this might be helpful. I made a timeline for myself yesterday just to give you an idea of what I went through and how many years it took to actually get to the place where I knew what I was doing or what I was becoming and that type of thing.
Okay.
Because
yeah, we would love to get to that. I'll give you the full
Okay.
screen to share that. But we've got someone asking, is this like entering into the spirit realm?
It is. Definitely is. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So in 1972, as I was starting to read whatever you could find in esoteric books, like there wasn't too much around in those days. 1974, I took up transcendental meditation, and that's when I started going into this very deep trance state of consciousness. In 1975 was when I had that experience with the white skeleton that I just explained, and it merged with me. And so I had to sit with that for a very long time. Just going into the trance state, and I became really good at it. I could move in and out of it very easily, and I would be taking notes. My vision changed. I would run into exactly the right person that would say exactly the right words that I needed, and the right book would fall in my hands. Maybe just one page, but it's exactly what I needed to answer my questions during those days. In 1994, so we jumped quite a bit. I moved quite a few times after that and ended up in Shuswap Lake area. This spirit of this eagle came down and was one of my first, what they call spirit teachers or power animals. And that was very amazing and empowering for me. In 96, I started doing this automatic writing. It's just what showed up, and I started channeling this information that was teaching me. So it was coming through me so I could put it on paper so that I could read it afterwards so that I can understand what I was learning. In 1998, I had this amazing jaguar experience. This one it's very exciting for me to talk about this. But, I was newly married, living in West Kelowna, and I was sitting at my dining room table. My husband had left the table. He was gone to work in his office. So I was just sitting there, and actually exactly what happened, I was chewing gum, and for some reason the gum came out of my mouth and rolled under the table. And so I got down on my hands and knees, and once I got down under this table, this jaguar took over my body, and so I was going around and around under the table on my hands and knees and hands in the body of this jaguar, going around and around the table. So she still works with me. She's a big part of my teaching and a big part of my life, and her name is Tarameda Jaguar, and I really didn't know for another 10 years what that actually translated into, but I've since discovered that.
Well, do share.
Do share? Okay. Okay, well, actually, what happened in 2001 by the same Jaguar, I was starting to actually work in the medicine wheel then. And I was, I had more and more teachers had come in, and I'd sit in circle with them upstairs in my bedroom and spare bedroom. And so I had had a pipe ceremony with this medicine man, and he told me that I am a woman of the seventh fire and a teacher of the ancient ways. And I didn't really know what that meant at that time. But the Jaguar experience, when she came forward in upstairs in my medicine wheel, and I was in trance state again, she came forward and she sliced me in two with her claws like this. And then she took two pieces of me and put me in this boiling pot of boiling water on this fire and boiled me up for a while. And I know this sounds really weird, but
I would be freaked out, to be honest.
Well, I was just watching it take place, like I'm sitting here while she's got my body over there and doing this stuff with it. And so anyway, she had me boiling up, and then she came back and she poured me from this big cauldron back into my body again. So
kind of like smelting.
Kind of like smelting.
You
So
put the pieces of metal together and remix, and then coming back in.
I was totally reconfigured as a being by this experience. And since that happened to me, I would always have these experiences, and then I would find out about what they meant later, because there would be some research on them. So it's not like it only happened to me, it's happened to other people. But so at least I was able to read it in print somewhere, and it gave it validation for me why I was experiencing this. So everything that that took place for me was getting to the place that I am now. But I still don't do anything without these teachers, because they're in the spirit realm and they can see what needs to be done and what healing needs to take place. And they're with me when I'm out of my body getting stuff for the clients that are on my massage table waiting to have a soul retrieval, for example. So, but anyway, that was one of the most profound experiences. And yesterday, as timely as this would be, I got my book by Alberto Villada's newest book, Heal Your Body, I think it's called. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, I was reading in his book about the ancient Maya, how they learned to die but retain their body. So they learned to move to the state, to this field state, to the state of invisible oneness, and then are able to return again. So the ancient Maya call this consciousness needed to experience the state of oneness. They call this the Jaguar body. Now, I just read that yesterday. How timely is that? So that I could tell you this story.
I just got total chills.
Me too. Like, that's how it always is,
Woo.
And so Jaguar shamans were individuals who somehow developed awareness of their infinite field state. And this is why Jaguar is such a powerful symbol in those cultures still today. I mean, it represents the journey beyond death, because when you're doing shamanic journey, you're exploring the state of infinite knowledge in the field where all the information of the universe resides. And so you go there to get the information and the healing that's needed by your tribe or by your family or by your client or whatever, for yourself while you're learning, like I did. So it's so fascinating, because I just read that yesterday. I thought, oh my God, how, because that's what I needed to be able to say. I never had to put it into words, but it's nothing new. It's an ancient process, and I'm just grateful enough to be somebody who was chosen to experience this.
Right. So, prior to this, and prior to the transcendental meditation in the 70s, where this all kind of came to a forefront with you, like before that, had you experienced anything else like that might have given you some glimpses into what was about to be happening with you? Or was that really that pivotal moment for you?
Well, that's a good question, because I have tried to analyze myself to see how I changed over time and what was different about me that was selected to do this work, because I still don't know anybody else that does exactly what I do. I've read things, but I've never actually spoken to anybody really. And I know that I was a very isolated in my field kind of person. I didn't share myself. I was extremely shy. And so I know that about myself, and that's still the same way today. So I think probably that was a useful personality trait to actually have, because I mean, I know, and you probably know women or people that have these kinds of experiences, and they're talking to them, to everybody, because they're so excited. But the thing is, when they do that, if these very profound experiences, they get diluted through those words, and they don't become your own teaching tool anymore, because you've diluted it by talking about it. That's what I've come to be aware of myself. That's why I'm so closed-mouthed, and I like even talking about this stuff now. It makes me quite nervous, but it's time. I mean, I'm in my 60s now, and I think it's time that I can share that. So,
well, thank you, and thank you for being brave to share your stories, because it's not that easy to explain journeys that are not
normal.
As common or prevalent amongst the general public, unless you're specifically going for a shamanic retreat or something and know what you're getting into.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
So to have this happen and to see that, I love how you're explaining it, though. It's really making a lot of sense to me, and hopefully our viewers as well. And if you've got any questions for Pat, certainly type them in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking as well. If you've got any questions for her about her journey and how her process has been, let's interact. Let's get some questions out there, and we'll try and answer them in the broadcast today. So do you have...
one thing
do you have, did I interrupt you? Like, do you have some more of your story?
I was just going to say that there was one thing that I probably... should mention. I got to know this one medicine man, and he came to my home, and that was the first time I'd experienced a pipe ceremony. And he was telling me about myself. He was the one who said that I'm a woman of the seventh, bringing these ways forward, teaching these ancient ways, which I can't say that I've done anything of yet. I haven't done any teaching except for right now. And then he presented me years later with my own medicine pipe. So that, and I know the process and the ritual that goes along with it and the sacredness of it. So I embrace the medicine pipe as part of my sessions now. And to be honest, it takes on a whole different dimension. And it's beyond words, really.
So that would be when people come to see you for a session in person, I would assume that. Now, you also do distant energy work as well, correct?
Yeah, anything that I do with them, people in my space, like on my massage table, I do it long distance, because I really don't do anything on the physical level. Even the energy work that I do, it's all non-physical. Like, I take up healing touch, and I'm a Reiki master. I'm Matrix Energetics certified, and other things. EFT is one that I guess it's a little more physical, because you're tapping the meridian endpoints.
Yeah, and EFT is short for Emotional Freedom Technique.
Yeah, and that one is fantastic right now. I'm using that a lot for people that are stressed out by what's going on. A lot of nurses and stuff, because it's very helpful to tap the energy of the emotions out of your field, so you can still have the thoughts, but you don't have that electrical charge locked in your field, so that it's messing you up. And everything that you do, you're traumatized all the time by these thoughts because of the emotion attached to the thoughts. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so when you do work with people, whether they're in person on your massage table there, or if you're doing distant energy work, can you kind of walk us through what that looks like what a session with, for someone that's never had this done before, and maybe a little bit of fear surrounding it because they're not really sure what they're getting into with you, and we're talking about crossing into other dimensions, and if I came to see you, I want to make sure that I'm not going to sucked into a vortex and not come back.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because you never know. No, I'm just kidding.
So maybe can you share what that really looks like in like the session with you would look like
Okay.
then, and what people would maybe expect to receive as a benefit, and what kind of healing
Okay.
takes place, and like kind of give us an example perhaps.
Okay.
Okay.
Generally, what I do lately, because I'm bringing people into this is my spare bedroom that you're looking at. So people are coming into my home, and out of respect for my husband, who I share this place with, I like to talk with people before I invite them here. So I usually do a reading for them over the phone, or now I'm using Zoom, of course, which is way better. I do a reading to connect with them, and that kind of grew into me getting information about what we would do when they came, if they came for a session. So in the long run, it serves two purposes. One, that I've had a connection with them and I get a sense of who they are, and if they're, seeking help or just seeking something that I don't know about, you know what I mean, just to make sure I know who they are. And then the second thing is that I get a lot of instruction, usually for the first one or two sessions. So I've saved time and money for them in the long run. So I do that now first.
So the instruction, the instruction that you're getting is from the spirit world.
Yeah.
This is
yeah.
from, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Because before I even call them, I will have connected with my team that I like to call them my spirit team. I usually smoke pipe because it opens up that realm where I'm sitting with them in circle. That's what it looks like to me. And they know exactly what's going on, and so they give me information about what we'll be trying to achieve at a session with them. And then if we decide to go ahead and work together, I used to only expect people would come once, and so I would jam as much as I possibly could into a session and then hope that I would see them again, kind of thing. But now I've tried to space it out in a more appropriate fashion so that they really can embody the transformation that took place. So I'm slowing things down, and plus I have a lot more modalities that I incorporate, so I give them a full spectrum of healing. But anyway, they would be in my space here, and we usually do a meditation first together to get ourselves back in body and connecting in a way. And I will have already connected with my pipe and my team before they come. I don't do that when anybody else is around. That's very private and intimate for me. That's my tool, my sacred space. And then once they come, we do the meditation. And so I will have received some instruction, as I said. So I'll get them onto my massage table, and I will call in the 4 directions and basically create a medicine wheel around them. And so I'm calling in the power of the universe represented in each of the 4 cardinal points. So our space is very embodied with all the information and the wisdom of the universe and specific teachers that come in just to do this work for us together. And usually the first thing I do is shamanic work, because people are, traumatized or stressed out, or for whatever reason, I do extraction work first. So I journey into my client through their crown, and you can't feel this or anything. I'm out of body, so I'm sitting there, but my consciousness is going into your crown, and I'm looking around in there, and I'm shown what you've taken on that doesn't belong. So it could be, I don't know how much time we have, but I'll give you a really good example.
We have tons of time.
Okay. One of my earliest clients, she was a nurse, and she had developed chronic fatigue, and she couldn't work any longer. In fact, she could barely get off the couch. She couldn't cook for herself or anything. So she came to my space. I was living in West Kelowna at that time, and I didn't have a massage table or anything, so I had her on a mattress on the floor, and I was kneeling at her head because I was going to journey within her field to see what I'm shown. And before I got very far, I could see this, I know you're going to think this is a little weird, but it looked like this really ugly bug with fangs, and he was inside her field. And I saw it down there, and it saw me, and the next thing you know, it shot out of her, hit me in the face, and went out through the ceiling, broke a blood vessel in my face on the way out. So,
Oh my.
yeah, that was, and then she went into this, she started like yelling and making all this noise, and she was moving around a lot on the floor, and my husband came up and he was standing outside the door wondering what is going on in there, you know.
And are you okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she finally calmed down, and I stopped her part way, and I said, "Are you okay?" And she goes, "Yeah, it's good, it's good." And then she would go back into this convulsing motion, and finally she calmed down. And so what had taken place for her, and this is so fascinating, it was a great teacher for me, was that she had been living with a man, her ex, who was extremely violent and brutal and you stupid, you know, you can't do anything. And she was taking all this in, like I use the example of a poisoned dart, taking it on, taking it on. Next thing you know, this thing is consciousness with anger and hate coming from him, right? And so it's like a living entity started to expand within her. He was gone, she was living by herself, but this had taken up space and had taken over the power of her body to sustain itself. And it was very powerful because
Wow.
when it came out, it was very real. And so anyway, when we extracted this, the reason she was moving around on the floor a lot was because all the energy that was compressed inside of her was all of a sudden moving into her field, and she could feel again. She had the resources to use her body again. She went home that night. We did more work after this. Of course, I didn't send her home after that just like that, but
Right.
when she went home that night, she made a pot of stew, and that was the first time she had cooked for herself for like years. So I am so blessed to have had that experience, because it showed me the power of what can take place and how powerful somebody's words are that are become like that had created this disease. Chronic fatigue is what it was being named as. Nothing
Right.
would touch it. Nothing could
Right.
help her. She didn't have use of her body. She couldn't work. So that was, like I said, a huge teaching for me, and I got really sidetracked telling you that, but I thought it was a
Oh,
good
no,
example.
this is what we want to know, because I'm like,
Okay.
you got to tell us more about this, because
Yeah.
this is what we're here for today, is to find out, you know,
Okay.
what these journeys look like. If people are drawn to this, then I should put on here that all of the contact info is available on the holisticmarket.ca website. So we can find your info and your contact info. Just go on there and search up Pat, and you'll be directed to her contact info and
Yeah.
some more about her on there.
Because I
But
do
yeah.
see there's some questions, and I
Yeah,
don't know
we do
if I
have
would
some
have time
questions. Oops.
to answer those. If you want me
Oh
to
yeah,
keep
we do.
speaking.
Yeah, we can go like as long as we need to.
Okay.
So first one we have was from Rochelle. Curious if when you're in a state of transcendence, is that the same as being in the spirit realm? I think we had someone else ask about this earlier, but that is, go ahead with that.
Okay,
answer.
I'm not very scientific when it comes to this stuff, but transcendental meditation was where I learned how to transcend beyond the field of my body. Well, I was out of the physical field, and I was in the field, the big part of us, which is way out here. So that's the transcendence. When I'm doing a journey, let's see, when you're in a state of transcendence, is that the same as being in the spirit realm? The spirit realm, at least a bit of research I've done, the spirit realm, there's a lot of layers to that. There's a layer that's right close to us, which would be the astral plane. And when we're doing shamanic journey, we go right through that. We don't hang out in the astral plane unless we're doing some psychopomp work, which is trying to do some work with ghosts, like discarnates and that type of thing, because there's a lot of them that get stuck in that field. But that's a whole other topic. But we go.
You're going to come back on this again, because there's many other side topics that I would love to explore with you. Animal totems, all of this that you're talking about. But yes,
Okay.
Go ahead.
So what was I What was I answering?
About if it's the same as being in the spirit realm, and that you go out beyond the ethereal, the
Astral
one
plane.
field, astral plane, and then
Yeah.
beyond that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we go beyond that to where you would encounter like the angelic realm, your spirit guides, and or the information that I need to help my client actually resides.
Okay.
If that answers that question. But getting back to the extraction, I said I started off telling you that this is what I usually do first.
Yeah.
Because I'm extracting from the field of my client what they've taken on and is now taking up space and resources, causing disease and pain and anxiety and you name it. It's different in every situation depending on what the actual source of this is. But I journey into my client through their crown and I'm shown what they've taken on or what has been inserted in them. And with my team, I extract this, and that can be very easy or it can be difficult. I have tools that I use, my drum and my rattles and extraction stones. And I didn't go shopping for them. They were sent to me, basically. This is what I needed to use to do the work. And they all have I should show you my altar. They're all sitting up there. Those are my tools. And so once we've done that, we've recreated space inside the field of the person's body, or their field. And so that's phase one, is to recreate the voids by taking out the stuff that filled up these empty spots that they had inside. And the reason these voids were there was as a result of soul loss or energy loss or fragmentation. So I have to explain what that is now. Soul loss is where, to give you an example, we have this self-preservation mechanism whereby in the event of trauma, pieces of us will fragment off to avoid the trauma. So in other words, just before you get hit by the bus kind of thing, pieces of us will split off and go to a place beyond time and space to avoid that trauma. Now, in a perfect world, once the accident or experience is over, then these pieces will come back and fill us up with power again to help us move into the healing and get over whatever that trauma was. But because we're in such stress-filled worlds, like driving down the street daily to go back and forth to work can be like so traumatic. People are always on the edge, always on the verge of, they're so scattered. Like when you say to somebody, you're scattered, well, you are, because intuitively you can probably see them way out here, they're scattered. They're not all contained within their field. And so every time you fragment, that's personal power, memories, emotions, your ability to do certain things. They go with these aspects, which we're calling soul parts. Like not the religious sense of the word soul, it's just aspects of you. So, I'm talking so fast, I'm getting out of breath.
So that would be then when you do like a soul retrieval with somebody, that would be going kind of back to that time and space where they fragmented, and then bringing in to make a whole again.
Yes.
Not like a whole, but whole like WHO, like being complete.
Oh yes. Right? Well, that's why I do the extraction work first. To take out what they have taken on, to fill in the voids created by the fragmentation. And we're energetic beings. There can't be any voids. There can't be any holes. So we take on stuff.
Right.
If we're in an anxious place where there's all this stuff around, we take up some of that anxiety. If we're living with somebody like that woman was, who's always yelling at her, we take on that word, and it's consciousness and emotion takes up space. And in her case, it developed into chronic fatigue, a disease, dis-ease. Dis-ease, yeah. So, you can use your imagination and see what can actually take place as a result of the voids. So that was phase one, step one. I do the extraction work to recreate at least some of the voids by taking out at least some of the stuff, because some people are so dense with stuff that's not theirs. They don't even know who they are anymore. So I create some voids, and then I do a shamanic journey to the soul parts, remembering that they haven't experienced any of the trauma. So they're perfectly healthy and happy in a time beyond time and space. I bring them back. Sometimes they're in the company of angels, keeping company with them, because some of them are like infants, children. Anyway, I bring these back and I restore them into that void that I just recreated. So it's like a spiritual transfusion in a way. So that's soul retrieval.
Right. That makes so much sense to me, because even, and I certainly I don't have much experience with shamanism, which is why I'm really intrigued with what you're sharing with us here today, because I'm so curious about this, and I see how it kind of ties in and relates in different ways to other things that I've been doing. And
right.
Like on the most simplest form, when even just doing, taking in a deep breath, exhaling and releasing all that's no longer needed. Well, the key to that is there's now a void, like you're talking about. So the next breath is bringing in healing, positive energy, so that's going in and filling that void, so that what we've just released doesn't come back and settle in again, because it was quite comfortable there.
Yeah, right. That's exactly right. It's spiritual hygiene. I've taught a workshop to the nurses at the hospice house, I think 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it was all about spiritual hygiene, because a lot of them were extremely depleted, because they're always giving of themselves to help these people that are ready to leave this plane, and plus the families are going to be left behind. So there's so much stress and sadness, and so they were very depleted and getting sick. And so I was teaching them these processes where daily they can ask their own teachers, their own spiritual team, whatever that means to them, or the creator or Jesus or whatever works for you. Ask for help to let go of what you've taken on that's not yours, that doesn't serve you, that doesn't belong. Let go of that and send that back to wherever it came from, because we're always supposed to be responsible for any energy that we move. We don't just take it out and throw it up in the air so that it can land on somebody else. We have to be responsible for any of the energy that we're moving. So that's a big part of shamanism. And so I teach them to these practices to extract this. And then in the same exercise, ritual, if you will, call back pieces that they've lost, that they've given away, that they've had stolen. And before these pieces come back, fill them with light and restore them. So I do that daily.
That's beautiful and very poetic, actually. So we have a question
and very
here from,
easy.
We have a question here from Annie. Annie, welcome. I'm glad you're watching. Annie's one of our regular viewers, actually. So thank you, Annie, for watching. I hope you're still here. She says, hello, Pat. I've had a lot of dreams of a person in my past. Is there any meaning to that? Thank you for your time. So I'm not sure if you work with dreams with people, but maybe you can share some thoughts about that.
Well, without any detail about the situation, about what this person actually meant to you, or if they're dead or alive, that would all have some bearing, of course, on the situation. But dreams are messages from ourselves to ourselves for the most part, unless, of course, we've got stuff in our field that is trying to impose itself on you. And they also could be, dreams from the divine, which are very helpful dreams. But when we have day-to-day dreams, they are messages that we could use right then and there. So depending on what's going on with this person, if it's not a good thing, then the chances are that person is somehow trying to access some of your power, or wants to be close to you because they love you, or because they don't like you and they're trying to harm you. The situations are different in every situation. It's kind of a bad answer, but the situation is what depends, or what, I can't answer just a blank question like that. You know what I mean?
But it does have meaning. So
For
when people are energies from somebody is showing up, if they're in
You're
your past,
frozen on my screen, so
Oh, okay. That's okay. We're still going. So Well, that's great. And Nikki says, wow, that story is so powerful. I will call you soon to book in a session. So Nikki is interested in following up with you too.
Okay.
So you're back on there?
Yeah, I couldn't. You
Okay.
were frozen on my screen. Was I frozen there? Yeah.
No, you
Oh,
weren't. No, that's okay.
okay.
We'll just keep going. That'll happen.
Okay.
Wi-Fi is incredibly overused right
Oh,
now,
I know.
so
It
we might get some
happens.
glitches here and there.
Happens regularly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I should actually make a note of that. If either of us drop off, we will be right back.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. I
Yeah.
hope I answered that question about that dream because I studied dreams for a while and I love interpreting dreams. But there's a lot of investigating that has to go on to get a really good interpretation of a dream.
So would that be something that you would be able to do like by phone or Zoom as well, like just to address people's questions on dreams? Like I didn't realize that you'd had that much studying as well on dream interpretation, but that, of course, that just makes sense because that's in the other realm. It's another realm
yeah,
too.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Symbols
Well, if anyone else has questions for Pat, certainly go ahead and type them in here. And if you're watching on the replay, let us know your thoughts as well. I think that is really interesting. And actually here, Annie is saying the person is alive that she does dream of. So this person's still alive and present, but from her past. So I would think she's the Annie that you're not really interacting with them anymore. So that's a past relationship of some sort, but the person is alive, but showing up in her dreams. So
well, if you study dreams, you would find that there's a lot of generic scenarios that take place, and the meaning can be consistent to some degree between person to person, but essentially they're also very personal. So if I was trying to interpret a person's dream, I would be asking a lot of questions, like right down to especially how did you feel in the dream? How you feel in the dream, it gives you a really good idea of the interpretation. Like if you were frightened in the dream, then right there you realize that there's something going on here that maybe not quite right. But if you're enamored in the dream, then it has a different tone and a different interpretation.
That's great. Yeah, so I could see that you would want to have a little bit more background info on that to give more of a full interpretation. But I think that you answered that, that does have meaning when people do show up in your dreams. And to explore that further would be to ask a lot more questions about that.
And dreams about a person in the past. I have a lot of dreams of a person in my past. Just logically thinking, you might have some unfinished business with that person. They might have some unfinished business with you, and unintentionally they're trying to get a hold of you. Like the dreams are non-physical, so we're working in the ethers, and there's not a generic answer that you can give for that, but something, if it keeps recurring, dreams are always something that you should investigate, I would suggest.
Because there's something unresolved there.
Yeah, something unresolved there.
In some way, shape, or form.
And they're teachers, a lot of times our dreams are just teachers to us.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So now I know, Pat, you had a lot of info that you had prepared to share with us today, and I just want to check in with you and see, is there something else that you'd like to share with us today? Oh, and just as Annie was saying, unfinished, you called it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. Was there something else you were wanting to share with us, Pat?
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard the terms psychopomp work.
A what? Nope, I have not.
Psychopomp. It's I don't know if it's a shamanic term, but that's where I saw it written, and it's where you are helping people, crossing people over that have died, they've lost their body, but they haven't crossed over from this plane yet. So it's very exciting doing this work. We're not people, you could call these people ghosts, but that kind of gives a bad connotation. So I just call them discarnate beings because they're stuck here without a body, and they're the ones who actually need help right now because there's certain reasons why people don't cross over. I mean, they might want to stay behind to help the person that they're leaving behind, like an aging wife or something, and they just might want to hang on to energetically hang on to their spouse because they want to stay back and help them.
Right.
Or there might be a situation where they want to get even. So they're hanging back because I'm going to get even with that person, and that doesn't work either. I lost my train of thought there. But anyway, no matter the reason why it takes place and how you end up without a body but you're stuck on this plane, you do need help to cross over. And I'll give you an example. One of my first experiences with that was I was doing some work with a person, and I could see this woman. I was showing her clearly. She was in a hospital operating room, standing beside her body. It was an older woman, and I watched this whole scene take place. So she didn't. She saw that her body was lifeless, and that she didn't know what to do. Wasn't prepared for that on any way. What do you do when your body's dead, but you're still there? You're still there. You know what I mean? So anyway, she could hear this baby crying down the hallway. So she left her body lying there on the operating table, which was, of course, the body was lifeless. But she went out down the hallway, and she entered a room where this baby was crying. And being a mother, a grandmother, she went over to where the baby was lying on its table, and she reached out to help the baby. And when that happened, when she did that, her fibers got entangled in the baby's live fibers. So at that point in time, she is attached to this child. So the repercussions of that, of course, are the child is going to be growing up with this older woman's consciousness, awareness, tagging along with her through all of the life experiences, but giving, feeling the thoughts of this older woman who's already experienced this life. And then the woman, she's stuck on this plane without a body because she's enmeshed in the field of this child. So as a psychopomp, we cut that cord, and we reconnect it to the child and seal any wounds or any leaks or anything, and then we do the same thing for the discarnate, and then we cross them over to where they should have gone optimally when they first died, but they didn't know. As I was thinking before, they wasn't sure what was going to happen when they died, so they stayed on this plane, or they were afraid, or they'd done bad things and they thought, oh my God, what's going to happen when I leave my body? I'm going to go to hell, or they, you know what I mean. The situations can be endless. But so in this case, I'm dealing with two clients, one that has the body attached, or the field of this old woman attached, and the other one who's still locked on this plane when she should have crossed over. I hope I explained that, right? I get so excited when I talk about this stuff.
Yeah. So as that child would be, say, growing up and say was going on like into their teenage years and beyond, would people then describe them as being like having an old soul because they have this kind of
potentially,
older perspective as well, kind of in their field? So would that be?
That could be one situation, one observation, or it could be a case where a person is male and they've got a female attached to them, so that might show up differently, as you can imagine. Or you might all of a sudden, as being the one with the body, you have a keen interest in something that would be unusual for you because you've got this life experience already by way of that attachment. Or if you use your imagination, you can see how that might play out. But the fact of the matter is, it's not useful for either situation. So as a shamanic healer, psychopomp is one of the things I'm responsible for. So the hospital is full of dead people. Let me tell you that.
Yes. Yeah.
It's full of dead people. Not a good place to heal.
All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you so much, Pat. Thank you for coming on. I'm just going to show everybody the gift that you have offered everyone watching here today is that 4 steps to calm your spirit. And there is a link for that in the comments below to sign up and have that delivered right to your inbox. Thank you, Pat. That was really informative, enlightening.
Great.
I learned a lot today. I hope our
Good.
viewers did as well. I'm glad we were able to answer some people's questions, and I'd love to have you back on the show because I know, like I was saying, I want to explore some of the other ones we barely touched on, and
Yeah.
and take a journey down those topics as well.
It's pretty
So,
exciting. It's different
yeah.
every time, I have to say.
Yeah.
Really, it is. I'm so grateful to be doing this work.
Awesome.
You just
Well,
never
thank you.
know. Okay. Thanks,
Pat.
Carly.
Just stay in the studio here. I'll catch up with you in a sec.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, Pat. All right, so thanks everybody for watching. And if you are interested in finding out contact info for Pat, it is available on the holisticmarket.ca website. You can use the search function to search up Pat, and you'll be directed to her profile page. Thank you for watching, and we do have another one coming up next week on Tuesday next week, and I believe that's at just after 1 o'clock, 1:10, and that will be with Colette Marie Stefan with The Truth is Funny. She was also one of our expert panelists at the online summit that we did last week. So we'll be doing energetic upgrades for people and really interacting. It'll be a lot of fun. So make sure you join us for that one too. Thanks everybody for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.